Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar, ClubExpress for Cycling Clubs. Before we get started, we'll go over just a little bit of housekeeping. All of your phones and mics are muted, so please enter your questions in the chat window. We have a couple of people joining us in the chat window today. We have Devin, who is going to be answering all of your webinar-related questions. Devin is one of the ClubExpress team members, and we also have Will. Will is one of our salespeople at ClubExpress, and he is your go-to guy for cycling clubs. So if you are not yet a ClubExpress customer and you're not yet part of the community and you're interested in that, reach out to Will, set up a demo, or even just reach out to Will to ask him some additional questions. If you are an existing ClubExpress customer and you see something on today's webinar that you're really interested in, reach out to Will or our support team, and they're happy to answer those questions for you and maybe help you get some of these things implemented on your site as well. So say hi to Will and Devin in the chat, and be sure to enter all of your questions into the chat window. They'll get answered in real time. And if there are any questions towards the end of today's webinar that we haven't addressed, we'll go through those as well. Today's webinar and all webinars are available on our event calendar on the ClubExpress site. You can go to clubexpress.com/event calendar to view upcoming webinars and register for those webinars as well. So, you know that we always send out an email to let you know about a webinar that's upcoming. You can also view those in advance on our calendar. So be sure to check those out and take a look at our webinar that's happening towards the end of the month, Gearing Up for Giving Tuesday. We're going to be talking about a lot of tips and tricks for retaining donors, creating those Giving Tuesday campaigns. And we'll talk about some of the tactics that you can use to have a really successful Giving Tuesday campaign, no matter what type of club or association you're a part of. So be sure to go to clubexpress.com/calendar and sign up for that webinar. And when you are taking a look at our webinars, or perhaps you're taking a look at the calendar and you're not able to make a webinar, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. When you take a moment to watch one of our great tutorials or webinars, hit that subscribe button. It's not just so we can get more followers, it is so you can get notified when we post a new webinar or tutorial instantly on our YouTube channel. So search for clubexpress.com on YouTube. Subscribe, and while you're there, take a look at some of the other great tutorials and webinars that we've posted. And if you are a ClubExpress customer and you love ClubExpress, we would love to hear from you. So visit clubexpress.com/reviews and leave a review for us on any one of the sites that you see there. Again, we would love to hear from you and we would love to have your feedback. So let's dive right into what we're going to be talking about today. Today's webinar is ClubExpress for Cycling Clubs, and we're not going to go through step-by-step how to set a lot of these things up. We're going to give you a really broad idea of how you can set up different things on your site to make your club run more efficiently, to really use ClubExpress to its full capability, to make all of your rides smooth, to make all of your interactions with your ride leaders smooth, and again, to make your club run more efficiently and to really enhance the experience that your members have when they're interacting with your website. Let's talk first about what we're kind of going to go over today. We're going to take a look at what you can do as administrators or even coordinators with your club, and also what your members can do. First, let's focus on what you can do with a ClubExpress site that's built in. These aren't going to cost anything extra for you. They're not going to be those extra cost features. It's just what you can do with everything that comes with your site already. You can set up and manage those ride leaders that you have within your club. So you can give them access to specific things across your website and use those items, to make your internal processes way easier. You no longer have to track different people, give them access to certain links. Everything is just built in. You can set all of that framework up from the start, and it's set for the rest of the life of your website. You can set up single rides, recurring rides, multi-day rides, and you can organize those rides by class. You can also track attendance. You can really easily deal with and communicate with registrants for those rides, collect emergency contact info from them. Everything is built in and it's all connected. So you don't have to ask the same questions more than once. You don't have to go to a million different places to find that information. You can sell ride kits right from the storefront that's built into your website. So you can sell those ride kits separately in a storefront. You can also tack on different items to an actual event that you set up. And we'll talk about that and we'll show you how that's set up a little bit later today. You can also collect member and emergency contact info and keep it right at your fingertips and the fingertips of your ride leaders. Instead of having to, have a separate list that members fill out, maybe a sign up sheet when they actually get to a ride, all of this can be done through your site and your ride leaders can do it themselves. Everyone in your club can be really self-sufficient. You can email your ride leaders and registrants. Ride leaders can even email registrants for a ride without having to contact anyone extra, without having to go to a separate platform. They can do it all from within the site. You can also ask for ride leader volunteers. So you can take a look at how many ride leaders you might have. Maybe you need a handful extra. Maybe you need some backups. You can even associate volunteering opportunities with an event. So when someone signs up to volunteer to be a ride leader, they can see exactly what event they're signing up for. You can also set up newsletter templates. So we're going to talk about ways that you can communicate with your members, either one-way or two-way communication. One way being you're just communicating information to your members, or two-way meaning you are looking for your members to be able to communicate back with you. So we're going to talk about all of the different ways that you can set up those communication tools and really become a one-stop shop for your members. They can get all of the latest news and information from you, and of course, they can get updates on what's going on within your club. And one of the really great things that you get access to is not just the ClubExpress Administrators Forum, which if you are already a ClubExpress customer, you might be familiar with it. It's a forum that we've set up for just ClubExpress administrators to be able to ask for tricks and workarounds and share their own tips and ideas with other administrators in our community. So even if you are, posting a tip as a cycling club, that tip might be really beneficial to someone in a professional association or a parent group. So we have the administrator forum set up, but we've also introduced a new cycling administrator forum. So this forum is open just to cycling clubs. So it's a great way for you to really narrow down who you're presenting tips to and who you're asking for advice from. Again, asking for advice from other cycling club admins can be really helpful. Now, in addition to all of the really great things that are included with your site, we also have extra cost features that are specific to your functions as a cycling club. So we have our ride log feature, and all of the prices that you see here are current as of today. So, if you're watching this webinar in the future and you want an update, just go to clubexpress.com/pricing to make sure that those prices are still correct. So with ride logs, you can track your members' riding stats, and your members can view those riding stats as well. And we'll talk about how we've set up access in all of these different features to, again, make your club run more efficiently. With ride queue sheets, you can document rides in your area and add all of the information for that specific ride directly into the module. So again, your members can just go to one space to get all of the info that they need. You can track trail status and grooming status using our trail maps and trail status module. So you can even set up volunteering opportunities for folks who might want to help clear a trail that you use very frequently. We can also use classified ads to allow your members to post items that they might have for sale or services that they might be offering for sale. And you can also charge a fee for posting a classified ad on your site. And then finally, of course, we have blast emailing built in, but for more immediate communication, consider text messaging. Text messaging is available as an extra cost. You can view really detailed information on the pricing for text messaging on our site. It is a way for you to be able to communicate those quick updates to members, especially with the number of events that you might be running as a cycling club. So consider text messaging as a way to, again, get that information to your members really quickly, whether it's an update or a cancellation or even just a weather update. So these are all of the features that are going to make your lives easier as administrators. But let's talk about how you're going to make your members' lives easier. Your members are going to be able to track their own ride stats and also take a look at the ride stats of others in the club to see where they measure up. They're going to be able to find rides and download ride maps in any GPS format that you can provide, and they'd be able to download it on their own. They can view trails, check the trail status, and they can even, with permission, be allowed to update trail status if that's something that they're responsible for. They can volunteer as a ride leader. They can even volunteer to be interested as a ride leader. And we'll talk about how we've set that up. They can, of course, purchase ride kits, register for all of those great rides, search for rides by class, or however you decide to categorize your rides. They can update their own emergency contact info, so you never have to go chasing that information down. Your members can do that directly from their member profile. And of course, they can post ads for items or services that they have for sale. So with all of that being said, that's everything that you're able to do. But how do you get that set up, and how is all of this going to connect? So in our demonstration today, the first thing that I want to go over is our ride leader setup. So I want to talk about the first thing that you do when you consider setting up all of your ride leaders and why it's beneficial to set them up in a specific way as opposed to just adding them as an event contact or a point person for a ride. And then we'll talk about those next steps. Once you have those ride leaders, what do you want to give them access to? And we'll take a look at some of those modules that I mentioned and see how they operate. And that might give you a better idea of how you might want to set up that access. So I'm going to switch my screens here. I'm signed in to our demo bike club as Martin Smith. Martin Smith is an administrator for the Northwest Cycling Club. Now, remember that Martin Smith is an admin, but he's still just another member of the club. So Martin can see what his members see, and he also has access to the back end or the back office of his site. So signed in as Martin Smith, I'm going to navigate to the control panel, and I want to talk about how Martin has actually set up all of his ride leaders so that he's able to deal with them and communicate with them in a really efficient way. And they're able to use the tools that they have available to make their lives easier, make all of their rides run a little bit more smoothly. So let's talk about how Martin's chosen to set up his ride leaders. First off, in the People tab, Martin has chosen to activate our interests module. And interests, that's a built-in module. And the reason he's chosen to do that is because interests are what are going to allow him to gauge who is actually interested in being a ride leader, or perhaps who already is a ride leader. So within our interests, we have a category of interests, and then we also have those individual interests within every category. And we've set up a category called ride leaders. Now, if I select this edit icon, that's going to quickly allow me to see how this particular interest has been configured. And what I've done is I've configured this as, are you interested in becoming a ride leader? And I'll explain why I've done that in just a moment. I've noted that a member of the cycling club will reach out to anyone who selects this interest with more information. I've also associated this with a page, a custom page that I have designed to include everything that they might need to know about what is involved in becoming a ride leader. And I've set up a coordinator just for this interest. So at this stage, if Martin does nothing else but set up this interest, he can already do quite a bit with this information. So let's talk about how this information is going to be useful to Martin and even to Mara Abbott, who is our coordinator for ride leaders. With the way this is set up, because interest is built into your site and because everything on your site is connected, Martin can use this interest group to do a couple of things. He can set up a forum just based on ride leaders, based on the interest that they've selected. And anyone who selects that interest is automatically a part of the forum. He can also use the interest as a basis for an email distribution list. So right off the bat, Martin has done very little work. He set up just an interest, and that enables him to be able to communicate with those folks a little more easily. And he's able to partition those off and again, see all of the people who are interested in that particular task. Now, let's take this a step further because Martin took this a step further. He set up that coordinator for his interest, Mara Abbott. Now, what that means is that anytime someone selects that interest as something that they're interested in, Mara gets an email. Mara can see everyone who has signed up for that particular task. Now, Mara is kind of Martin's go to. Mara is responsible for quite a bit. So when Mara gets that email, she then will reach out to that particular member and maybe pass on some extra information because Mara has access to our blast emailing tool. So when Mara gets that information, she sends that quick email out to the interested party and lets them know, here's everything that you need to know about becoming a ride leader with the Northwest Cycling Club. We even have a separate section of information on our site called Ride Info, where we have some ride leader information that we can even just send a quick link to. So at the very top, we have just some quick information, forms that ride leaders are going to need, and we'll talk about where those forms are stored. And on the left-hand side, because for Northwest Cycling Club, we require a short training class for ride leaders before they actually get on the road. So I've inserted a calendar widget that only shows the upcoming meetings and trainings that ride leaders would be able to attend. So right from this quick custom page that I created, I have all the info that ride leaders are going to need. They can see all of the dates that are coming up for training. And all Mara really has to do is send that quick link out to her members or to those interested parties. And right away, that's just saving a ton of time. In addition to Mara being able to, go in and send that person an email, Mara can do a couple of other things. Mara can also see, perhaps when that particular member has actually completed their training. So perhaps she's the one who's leading the training, or she's in contact with someone who leads that training. Once that person has been trained, has filled out all of the proper forms, she can go ahead and add them to a committee. Now, committees are another really great way to just take all of this a step further. With committees, you can do even more than you can do with your interest groups. Now, you'll see here that we have a ride leaders committee. So within that particular committee, if I just take a look at how that's been set up by selecting that edit icon, I can see that I'm showing my member list. I'm showing photos. I don't have any limited membership. And I haven't allowed my members to add or remove themselves because Mara wants to make sure that anyone who adds themselves to the Ride Leader Committee is actually part of that committee. Now, I'm taking a look at the members within my Ride Leader Committee. I can add a member, and that's just allowing me to choose a member from my database. We have a couple of people who have an extra title. So Mara and Mary are both managers of the ride log. So they're the go-tos if someone has questions about how the ride log functions. They're sort of our ride log power users. Now, I mentioned that with committees, you can do so much more than just setting up a forum and sending out an email. Of course, you can do those too. But another couple of things that you can do with committees is we've set up a document library folder that is available just to members of that committee. So think about all of the documents that your ride leaders need to be able to access, any empty forms that they need to print out, any items that you might want them to upload to be visible to other members of the committee or even your board of directors or other administrators. So within our website tab, we've set up a folder within the document library that allows us to store all of our ride leader documents. We've even got a couple of subfolders here. So I have ride leader documents in one folder, and I have documents that they might need to submit in a completely separate folder where I've allowed member uploads. And so again, these folders are only going to be visible to members of that committee. So right off the bat, again, we have all of this set up with just a couple of features that are built into the site. We have ways that we can easily communicate with our ride leaders. We have ways that we can easily send them and show them documents that are for their eyes only. Now, another really great way to use committees is when you're setting up an event. And we'll talk a little bit more about events when we are looking at the event calendar. But just to touch on that item, when you're setting up an event, whether it's a single ride or a recurring ride, if you have an event that carries a cost with it, and you want to allow perhaps your ride leaders to pay a lower fee than any of the regular members who might be signing up, committees is the way to go. You can say that you have an event that's available to everyone, but your committee members on the ride leader committee are going to pay a much lower fee than any other member. And again, because you've added those ride leaders to that committee, they're able to take advantage of that lower fee. And you don't have to do anything crazy on the back end except for just setting up these really basic things. So I have opened up a huge door for the way I communicate with my ride leaders, the way that I get them information. And all I've done is set up an interest and set up a committee. So let's talk about volunteering. So we went the interest route, right? And so with interests, I've configured that to be part of my member sign up. When my members sign up for the first time or they renew, they're faced with a page that allows them to check off those interests. They're also able to do that through their member profile. So Martin Smith or any member can pop into their member profile. And at the bottom right-hand corner, they see their interests right at the top of the screen. And we've seen that Martin Smith has elected to be interested as a ride leader, so he is part of that group. Now, let's talk about another way that Martin has decided he wants to gather interest and maybe have some people sign up to be a ride leader or even a backup ride leader. So under our members only menu, we have a volunteering module set up. Now, with volunteering, we have created a couple of volunteering opportunities. So we need someone to become maybe a backup ride leader. We also need a couple of people to help out clean up one of the trails that we use quite often. So even if we are not using interest, even if all you want to do is set up volunteering opportunities, that works out just fine because these volunteering opportunities are going to be associated with an event on your calendar. So I can say that I need a backup ride leader for one specific day, and I can sign up to be that ride leader, or I can sign up to be that backup as a member directly from the site. Now, these are just a couple of things that you can do to get those ride leaders set up. The greatest way would be setting up that committee. That gives you the most flexibility and the most functionality. But if all you have time to set up is a volunteering opportunity, or you're not quite ready to, get all of those extra pieces set up, give one of them a shot. Try out one as a new way of dealing with ride leaders within your organization. Now, we've talked about setting up those interests, setting up those volunteering opportunities. We took a look at how the information that our ride leaders would be able to gather just from visiting your site. So again, we're talking about being sort of a one-stop shop, one place that your members can get all of the information and get that information easily. So we've talked about Mara being the committee co-chair. When a new ride leader's been trained and they signed all their forms, Mara adds them to that particular committee. So let's say that we have all of those ride leaders set up. Where do we go with this information next? Let's pop right back into our control panel, and we'll talk about some of the additional options that you would have through ClubExpress as a cycling club. So within our control panel, this is where we're going to access all of the modules, whether they're built in or whether they are built in, or if there are extra cost features. So if I navigate to the club tab, for example, that's where I would access my ride log, my classified ads. Under the website tab, I'd be able to access my trail map and status, which is how I'm seeing what trails are cleared, and cue sheets. So all of these modules can be either available to administrators only. If you would like to keep those functions as just being able to be touched by admin eyes, you can absolutely do that. But Martin wanted to make his job a little bit easier. Mara is the committee co-chair for ride leaders, and Mara actually has access to a lot of these features. Mara has been set up as a coordinator, which means that she has that admin level access to just a few specific features. So let's take a look at the club tab and our administrators and coordinators, and let's just see what Mara's been given access to and why. So if I take a look at the functions next to Mara, and I'm looking here at everything that she has access to, she has access to our people lookup function. In case she wants to add photos from a ride, she has access to photos and photo albums. She also has access to trail maps, cue sheets, and finally, the ride log and emailing, as well as the ability to see problematic email addresses from members in the organization. So she has been given all the tools that she needs in order to manage rides and manage the ride leaders. So just to show you the type of access that Mara has, I have signed in as Mara in a different browser. So we can see at the top right-hand corner, I've signed in as Mara Abbott. And Mara also has access to that control panel, but she only has access to the features that Martin has given her access to. So she sees those photo albums. She sees just the items that she has access to, and she's able to interact with them in the exact same way. Whatever your best practices or your processes might be, whether you are having one person upload all of your information to your ride logs, or if you want every ride leader to be able to upload that information, it's entirely up to you. All you have to do is, at the click of a button, give that ride leader access to that particular feature. So let's say that Mara has just finished up a ride and she wants to go in and add that mileage into the ride log. She can do that from a couple of different places. She's just going to visit the control panel and select ride log. Now she's looking at our ride log from the back end. This is the admin side. This is not a side that regular members are going to see. And our ride log is a really great feature because it is connected to your event calendar. So remember that we're talking about connectivity and using those connections to their fullest capabilities. So when you use the ride log, you tell the ride log, what event categories do I want to use for the ride log? Now, we haven't taken a look at our event calendar, and that's our next stop, but let's just take a look at some of the ride categories that we've set up here. When you add categories to your event calendar, they can be categories for meetings. You see here that we have a couple of categories for different daily rides, as well as family rides and some training. Now, when you add a category to your ride log, a category of a type of ride, you're actually choosing from the categories that have been added to your event calendar. So what you do is you determine, does this event calendar category fit a ride? And if it does, you select that category. And then the bonus miles that the ride leader gets for actually hosting that ride or participating in that ride. Now, you'll see here that, for example, our family rides are associated with our family ride category, and the leader gets 5 bonus miles per ride for that. So again, we're setting up those ride categories and letting the system know which categories should it automatically look for in the event calendar to add those rides to our ride log. Because once you add that category and you associate that category with the ride log automatically pulls any rides that you have on your calendar so that all you have to do is go in and add the mileage. You don't need to add the ride details to the ride log. It pulls that information from your calendar automatically because you've associated that ride category with the ride log. Now, let's take a look at our Sunday ride from this past Sunday. If I select the edit icon, all Mara has to do is take a look at the member list, find her participants, whether or not she wants to add in home mileage, the number of miles that that particular ride entailed, and whether or not that person was a leader because we want to add in those bonus miles. And all of that information is updated automatically. As soon as that information is added to the ride log, when we take a look at the ride log from the member's perspective by navigating to that on the menu, updated right away. There isn't an overnight refresh. All of that information gets added instantly. And then one of the newer features that we have within the ride log, we do have the ability to sort each of those columns in ascending or descending order. So if you want to view the ride log as more of a leaderboard, we want to take a look at total miles, we can sort that in a different way if we'd like. So Mara has access to this information. She also has access to cue sheets. So Mara is able to add a cue sheet to our list of cue sheets. You see that even Mara has the ability to search through those cue sheets by the ascent, by the effort index. All of this information is put in when Mara actually adds the cue sheet or when any administrator adds the cue sheet to the list. And from your member's perspective, because remember that Mara is just another member, we have the ability to select a ride, and we even have the ability to download GPS support for that ride. So if I'm taking a look at this from the back end, and again, this is just Mara. Mara is just a volunteer, but she has this admin access because Martin has enough to do. He has enough on his plate. So Mara's volunteered for these duties. And it doesn't just have to be Mara. You can add as many coordinators as you need to a particular function. So if you need 5 or 6 people adding and managing cue sheets, or you need 5 or 10 people managing the ride log, that is entirely up to you. Those are those best practices that you can come up with. If you would prefer to have fewer cooks in the kitchen, you can really narrow that number down. Now, cue sheets are honestly even easier than the ride log. So we have several cue sheets that we have here. At the very top right-hand corner, we set up our counties and our cities. And then if we want to add a cue sheet, again, it's really basic information. It's a quick pop-up window. We're entering in the name and the description of that particular ride. We're categorizing it. We're adding that information, the distance, the ascent, the starting point. And then our ride with GPS URL, because ride with GPS functionality is built into the cue sheets. And we can also upload various GPS extensions or even just a quick PDF map of that particular cue sheet. Now, with the ride with GPS URL, of course, if we go right back into our cue sheets and we take a look at one of our rides and we select ride with GPS, it's going to take you right to the site. Of course, this particular link won't work, but all of those links, again, this is a demo site. So those links are going to take you directly to that site where you'd be able to download that ride with GPS support. And then the last item that Mara has access to, which we will just very quickly take a look at, would be our trail maps and status. So if you are doing trail riding, as opposed to city riding, this would be a great module for you. So if we go ahead and zoom in on a couple of the trails that we've outlined here, I can select any one of these trails and see some very detailed information about the trail, the status of the trail, whether or not it's been groomed, and I can even download a map of that particular trail. Now, again, all of this is being configured either by Martin or another coordinator. So if I'm looking at the back end of our trail manager, I can see a list of trails. I can edit the trail status of all of those. And if I add a trail, again, I'm adding in some grooming information, the trail status, maybe associating it with an area. When I add a trail, I'm entering in the name and the description, linking it to a map, which we'll come back to in just a moment, assigning it to an area that I have set up. So I can set those up based on neighborhood or based on county, depending on the area that my club covers. Select the status and the grooming status. Now, with the map link, our trail manager is actually associated with your document library. When you add the module, we associate the module with a specific folder in your document library where you add in your trail maps. So all you have to do is upload those maps. And what you're essentially looking for in this map link is just one of the documents that you've added to your document library, one of the maps that you've added to the library. Again, everything is connected, everything is built in. You don't have to send your members to Google Maps to be able to take a look at that particular map. They can download the map right from your site. They can get all of that trail information right from your site instead of from a third-party operator or having to call someone to figure out if that trail is open. All of this information can be easily changed by you. So if we take a look at one of our pads that are partially open, if I just select this edit icon and I've taken a look at that trail and it's actually clear, I can go ahead and change this status, save that, and it's updated immediately. All it took was a couple of clicks of my mouse. And then we also mentioned that Mara has access to blast emailing. So that's how she's going to be able to quickly send out emails to ride leaders. She's going to be able to send out email communications, perhaps to registrants for the rides that she is responsible for. So, speaking of rides that Mara would be responsible for, let's talk about what the next steps of our demo are going to be. So, we've talked about all of the ways that you can get all of those ride leaders set up. And now we're going to take it another step further. We're going to talk about setting up those events, how those ride leaders are going to fit into those events, and ways that you can use all of the built-in functionality to, again, make your lives easier. We'll talk about our storefront. We'll go through our storefront a little bit, and we'll talk about those classified ads. And then last, we'll talk about communication, and we'll talk about ways that you can get out that information to your members, and also ways that you can get more information to yourselves as a cycling club. So let's pop right back into our Northwest Bike Club. And I'm switching browsers here, and I'm signed in again as Martin Smith. So right now I'm navigating through my site as a full administrator. You'll see that Martin Smith now has access to everything because he's a full admin. So let's take a look at our ride calendar. Our ride calendar is going to look fun. It's colorful because we have added different categories for different types of rides. Now, as an admin, this helps you organize. As a member, this is going to help you find exactly the ride that you want. At the top right-hand corner, as a member or even as an administrator, I can select this legend icon to see, what do all these colors mean? Which ride should I actually be looking for? And on the left-hand side, that search function allows me to quickly include and exclude separate categories, search by title or description, or search within a specific date. Or if you have rides that do have a capacity, your members can search for just rides that have available capacity. So let's talk about what we're seeing here. We have a handful of rides that are occurring on daily rides. We also have an additional family ride that's available. We have a board meeting coming up, and we have a big ride. Maybe it's one of our club's bigger rides that we host every year, the Wildflower Century Ride. Now, let's talk about a couple of these items and how they're set up. Let's take a look at our Sunday ride. So when I navigate to the Sunday ride as an admin, I have some extra options at the right-hand side. But remember, I'm also viewing this as a member. So when your members view the event that they're looking at, I've linked this to a custom page that I've created to talk just about my Sunday rides. So if I select that link, it's going to take me to a page that I've created just for my Sunday morning rides with all of the information that your riders are going to need. I have a quick link on the left-hand side for other daily rides if they'd like to choose a different date. And on the right-hand side, in the same way that I inserted that calendar into my ride leader info to show them when their upcoming training sessions might be, I've also included a schedule for each daily ride. So if I take a look at my Sunday rides on the right-hand side, I'm seeing just a list of those upcoming Sunday rides. We'll go back just one screen here. I can see when and where this is taking place. I can even, of course, include a link to the cue sheet for that particular ride. I can insert any information that I need into my event. I can see my event contact. That's going to be my ride leader. Mara happens to be the ride leader for this particular event. We have one person who's registered, and we show how many people are left that can register. And there isn't a fee associated with this particular ride. Now, on the right-hand side, I have a lot of options. I can mark attendance because I'm an admin. I can register another member. I can view who's registered, and I can also volunteer. So if you'll remember, we set up those volunteering events to link to an actual event on your calendar. So when a member is going to sign up for this ride, maybe they see that volunteer button and they become interested, and they take it a step further and they select volunteer. And now they're seeing that they can actually volunteer as a ride leader. And that just takes them on another journey through your site. Well, what does it mean to be a ride leader? Maybe I actually do want to sign up for this. How can I take that a step further? Now, when I'm looking at an event that I'm hosting, I have all of these admin options that are available to me. I have the ability to see my registrations. I have the ability to see anyone who signed up. I can run reports on anything having to do with this event. These reports are going to include members' contact information, any answers that they've submitted to questions. So, with this event that I've added, I have asked our members questions, including what their emergency contact info might be. Because when I'm on the road and I need to, get in contact with someone's emergency contact, I don't want to have to dig through, all of this information that may have been given to me. I don't necessarily want to have to ask the person. I want to have that information at my fingertips. There are plenty of reports that you can run and download that will include all of the emergency contact information that member has entered, and it will pull from their member profile. They don't even have to enter it twice. They enter it once in their member profile. You can link that to your event, and you can see all of that information on the fly. I also have the ability to quickly email anyone who's registered for this event. Now, this particular emailing interface, because it's associated with an event, is going to have additional distribution list options that are going to include event registrants who maybe haven't paid. It's going to include event contacts. So if you have a very large ride which has multiple event contacts, you're going to be able to email them all at one time to give them an update. Now, one item that is not available on this particular site, because it is a demo club, is the ability to send a text message to registrants. So that's something that would be really beneficial if you have maybe emergency updates, or if you have information that just needs to get out to those members. So let's take a look at a couple of other items here. We'll quickly take a look at one of the events that we've set up that is a larger event. And this is what's actually going to show us how we can set up a sort of multiple activity event, whether it's a longer ride that spans maybe several days, or if it's just one ride that has a lot of other items involved. For example, we have our ride, and we also have a dinner right after the ride. So these are individual things that our members are going to pay for. They're still part of the same event, but we have this set up so that members can select individual things that they want. Now, we have a lot of tutorials and webinars that talk about configuring this type of event where you have a lot going on. You have multiple items that the members might sign up and pay for. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel and search for multi-activity event to get some more information on how these are set up. This is also a really great way, if you don't want to use the storefront, to go ahead and add any items that would be included in your kit to registration. So you can either send your members to your storefront to have them purchase a shirt or purchase, any other items, or you can just add that as a registration item. So right when they're registering for your event, they can add that shirt to their cart, pay for it all at the same time. And of course, if they don't choose to go that route, they can select that shop icon, take a look at our storefront, and purchase any items that they'd like from the storefront. And again, all of this is built directly into your site. This is not going to take them to a separate site to buy these items. It is built into your own website. And then, of course, when we hovered over that shop icon, we also have classified ads. Now, this is not just a great way to help your members get rid of, things that are sitting around in their garage, but it is an extra way for you to bring in a little bit of extra cash for your club, because you have the ability to charge your members a fee for posting an ad on your site. So consider that as, even if you aren't charging a fee, a way to build more community with your members. Everyone might end up going on Craigslist to sell an item, but what better way to really strengthen that bond by, allowing your members to sell things to each other? So right from a member's perspective, if we're taking a look at our classified ads, I can quickly see some basic info, maybe see a photo. I can view more information about the bike. This particular person looks like it's Mara again. Mara's selling a bike, and she's also linked to the actual bike, so I can quickly view some information about that. And then we have Kevin, who's selling a couple of bikes as well. I can email Kevin directly from this screen, even as a regular member. And if I want to, again, show how this is quickly set up, I can see a couple of ads here. Now, the ads are going to need to, be taken a look at by an administrator. I can set these up if I take a look at my options to require approval. I can also set them up to have a fee associated with them, which is how I've done that here. So Martin's getting just a little bit of extra cash every so often from folks who are looking to add a classified ad to the site. Now I want to talk about communication. So we've talked about all of the really great ways that adding ride leaders, configuring those ride leaders is going to make it easier for everyone to communicate. So the ways that you have to communicate with your members, if we're talking about one-way communication, where I am just trying to get my members or my ride leaders information, we have blast emailing. So really consider giving your ride leaders access to blast emailing, not necessarily to have them email everyone in the organization, but that's the way that they, as event contacts or ride leaders, are going to be able to contact the registrants for that ride. So it gives them that extra ability to communicate with folks. It just makes all of the activities going on in your club more seamless and a little more smooth. Some other items that we have available, we have text messaging. So we talked about text messaging being a really great way that you can quickly communicate with those registrants and even quickly communicate with members about anything. So consider adding text messaging to your portfolio for those communication tools. And then news. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about is the way that you can create a one-stop shop for your members and really make your site the place that they go to for all of that information. Making your mailing list the place that they might go to for what's happening in my area as far as cycling goes, or what's happening in my community. You don't always have to just focus on events that are specific to cycling. Maybe you want to, be a place that members of your community can find out about stuff that's going on in the community. So consider news and articles. News and articles are going to be a really great way for you to get those news announcements out to your members, whether it's local club news. Maybe you're talking about new members of your board. Maybe you are issuing an announcement that you are looking for additional ride leaders or someone to help manage a big ride that you're hosting. Or perhaps you're using it to distribute information about local cycling safety laws. Maybe there are some local ordinances that are coming up before a county board or a city board, and you'd like to let your members know that these are important things that are happening. These are things that are having to do with local safety, and you want to gather support for that. An additional set of communication tools that we have here are two-way communication tools. So our two-way communication tools are going to be those that are really focused on not just getting information to your members, but getting information back from your members, getting all of those insights from your members. And so for that, we turn to forums and blogs. Now, we have already talked about the great way that we can use forums when we talked about adding our ride leaders to a committee. So we have the ability to set up a forum just based on committee membership. So imagine all of your ride leaders being able to communicate with each other seamlessly through a forum, or any of your members in specific areas being able to communicate with each other even when they can't ride. So there are a lot of groups right now who maybe aren't able to meet up because of local ordinances, because of the pandemic that we are currently in. But that doesn't mean that your members need to just stop associating with one another. Really consider enabling those forums and letting your members talk to each other. And posting blog posts. Blog posts are a little bit of an easier way to get that information to your members and also ask them to comment back. And so a really great example of this would be if you have ever taken a look at the League of American Bicyclists newsletter. It is a wonderful newsletter. It is really easy to get on their mailing list if you visit their website. Will be able to provide a little bit more info on this. You have the ability to subscribe to their mailing list and get some interesting information on cycling. Now, consider that, when you're taking a look at the League of American Bicyclists, if you haven't been on their newsletter previously and you are interested in it, their newsletter offers a lot of information. It offers all of that information that its members are looking for. It offers news updates, law updates, local updates. Consider that you could be that for your members. You could be that one-stop shop for all of that information. Now, when we're talking about, again, using the connectivity of the website to its full capabilities, it's really just focusing on all of the tools that you have and how they're working together. And we've talked about some of those ways that all of those connections today are going to work for your benefit. So when we're talking about events, a couple of tips and tricks. You do have the ability to copy events. So when you are setting up your weekly rides and you're setting up your Friday ride, don't sit there and add an event for every ride. Use that copy feature. So we have some more tutorials and webinars that talk about setting up events, and we do go through how to set up those recurring events. So be sure to check out those events on our YouTube channel. Just go to our YouTube channel, clubexpress.com, and search for events, and you'll see all of those really great tutorials that will include those special tips and tricks on how to make the function really work harder for you. Set up your best practices and processes. Maybe when you first signed up for Club Express, there was so much going on that you didn't necessarily have time to create a full procedure for how your club administrators are supposed to interact with the site or interact with each other. Take the time to really set those up. Once you have a process in place, it really takes away all of those extra questions. You're no longer answering questions 8 separate times every time you have a new ride leader. All of that info is ready for them. And your modules are all connected. That it really is the beauty of having Club Express host your club. Everything is connected. We aren't cobbling together additional features that we might be getting from third-party sites. So because they're all connected, you can use those connections to make your lives easier. You can use those connections to make all of the jobs that you might ask others to do easier. Remember Mara. Mara has a lot on her plate right now. She is coordinator for a lot of different functions, but because she's able to go in and do that herself, she does not have to sit around every Friday night sending Martin Smith everything in an email so he can update a spreadsheet. Mara can do that on her own with a couple of clicks of her mouse. And again, because all of this information is stored for you, do you ask the same questions very often in your events? Are you asking your members every single time, what their level of experience might be, or what their comfort level with certain ride categories ride classes might be? Do you constantly ask for updated emergency contact info? Make them additional member data questions. That way, every time you add a question to an event, you can associate that question with something that's already been answered. And again, we have a lot of information on how to do that. So if you do have questions on how to set up those additional member data questions, you can always navigate to our help system, help.clubexpress.com, or if you're stuck, just give our support team a call. And remember that you can absolutely be a one-stop shop for your cycling club. So you can be the place that your members go to look for recommendations on products. They can use forums to ask other members what their recommendations might be, maybe for even a local service in the area. You can be the place that your members go to look for used equipment through classified ads. You can be the space that they go to for updates on local safety laws in their area. That can be a newsletter that they really look forward to getting every single month is what do you have to say? Because once you start sharing that information, your members will become, sort of addicted to it. They'll look forward to it and they'll come to expect a great level of info from you. So with that being said, Devin, how are we doing on questions?
We're pretty good. It looks like we got most of our general questions answered. There's only one outstanding I wanted to voice at the moment, unless we have any more come in. Someone did ask if non-members get recorded either as the ride total in the ride log module.
So that is a great question that I unfortunately don't know the answer to. That would be maybe a question to send over to our support team. So our support team is available by phone or by email, and you're able to contact them with any of those questions. We also have the ability to, poke around within the demo bike club. So if you would just send your contact info over to us, and we'll figure that out for you, and we can follow up with you to see if that's actually something that you can add in.
And it looks like we had Chrissy ask if there is a way to get all attendance statistics into a single spreadsheet instead of having to go into each account. I believe we can by doing event exports from your events manager. There is an option to export all past event data.
Yes. And so let's go into our calendar. And we do, yes. So we have event exports, and you're able to view all of that information through exports. Would that be something that they would be able to run if they were using ad hoc reporting?
Yes, ad hoc reporting does have all of the event data. I'm not sure if it has ride log data just yet, but if it doesn't, that's something we could add pretty easily as well.
Yes. And if you are not sure what we're talking about when we mention ad hoc reporting, it is available for a free trial on everyone's site. It is a wonderfully robust custom report builder that feeds live data from your site. So if you aren't already using ad hoc reporting and you want more information on it, just feel free to navigate to the club tab of the control panel, and you can take a look at ad hoc reporting, sign up for a free trial, watch a handful of tutorial videos. You also have access to our help system, of course, and play around with it. See if ad hoc reporting works for you. And if you have any questions about it, or if you'd like to enable it on your site, just give our support team a call.
We have someone asking if they can access the demo bike club. I'm not sure if it's one of our public clubs or not.
It is. So if you want to be able to access our demo bike club, just give Will a quick email, and I'll go ahead and pull up Will's contact information for you. And Will can go ahead and send out all of that information so that you are able to access Demo Bike Club. Take a look at how we have set up some of these configurations, play around with some of the features and see if those features are going to be right for your club. Feel free to take a look at how we've set up events, how we've set up those coordinators, and even mimic some of those changes on your own site.
Okay, and we have Gary has asked if they have all of their rides in an Excel spreadsheet. With ride with GPS links and mileage and elevation, is there a way to import that into the ClubExpress database? I don't believe so. I could double check that with support. That's something we'd have to reach out to support for and have one of our database managers double check. But if I remember correctly, I've seen this question before, and I don't think we can bulk import events.
Yeah, that's not something that I'm sure we can do, but absolutely we can reach out to support and figure out if that's a way that you're able to import that data as opposed to entering in that information separately.
And I did throw that question about non-members in the ride log over to one of my support people while we were talking, and it does look like we do not have non-member support for the ride log. You'd have to track your non-members through the event itself.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Will. In regards to the bulk, the upload through the import, we can't do that either.
Okay, thank you, Will.
Thanks, Will. All right. Do we have any other questions, or have the masses died down?
The masses have died down. Chrissy was asking to see the event export one more time.
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and end this. So if we pop right back into our event calendar and we take a look at our event export, we also have event reports that are built in. So if we take a look at our events and registrants, and we'll go ahead and set a date. We may not have a lot of data on this site just because it is a demo site. So let's go ahead and select that export. And this opened up on a different screen for me. So I'll just go ahead and drag that in. And we're able to see just a quick export of all of our event data, whether or not they had attended that particular event. And we can, of course, use Excel's filtering capabilities to be able to filter through all of this information. And we can also take a look at our event reports as well. So within event reports, we can view attendance by member, whether or not those attendance numbers are required, and registration. And then, of course, we have all of the individual event reports that you're able to run as well.
All right, I think that looks like it.
All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining today. We appreciate you taking the time. A recording of this webinar will be available in a couple of days on our YouTube channel. So make sure that you check that out or hit subscribe so that you get notified as soon as that video is uploaded. Again, thanks for attending our webinar, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Bye, everyone.